Can you guys bear with me just 1 second? I am just a couple minutes behind. So 1 second. All right. What's going on, everybody? People are just starting to come in. I'm running a few minutes late, as always. But just a quick kind of disclaimer or whatever the hell. I do mute everybody, just so we don't drive each other nuts. But please feel free to unmute yourself if you gotta say something or cut me off or whatever. Just that way, we don't skip out on any questions. Video, it's not closed off. So if you have video, just make sure that there's nothing that we don't want to see. And then outside of that, just if you could, for the people that are on so far, if you could just shoot a quick little message in the message side, just to make sure you could hear me. And I'll take that as a go. Cool. Okay. Just and as a kind of forward, I guess, on this, I do have a farm. I don't bullshit about that. Like, I'm 100% legit about that. I'm all kinds of animals you will hear in the background, so just don't think you're going crazy. Especially the goat, he's kind of going off, so you'll probably hear him every few minutes. Outside of that, I'm just waiting to make sure we're not waiting on anybody else. But what I'll probably do is just kind of leave this like an open floor. I really hope that everybody who's on tonight does get a chance, or did get a chance actually, to watch the previous Zoom. It'll clarify a lot of what I'll talk about in here tonight. We kind of have a different angle, I think, at how we look at the market maker method, just to kind of simplify it and remove the overkill, so to speak. So I think that's really where it should all originate from. If you haven't watched the Zoom from 2 Sundays ago, I would highly, highly suggest that, or at very least, just take a look at previous posts and make sure it all makes sense better up in the Telegram and stuff. Let me do one quick thing. Just as usual, I like to invite partners in crime, William and Maria, and I all love them anyway. So make sure that they know. And I'm sure 100% that they have notifications turned off on for the group. Awesome. All right, invite to send. So, all right, let's kick this off. First and foremost, y'all know do your own analysis, all that stuff. I'm not a financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. Don't take my advice for anything other than what you see on your own. If you don't see it, don't trade it, all that good stuff. Moving from there, let me go ahead and share screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to do something kind of fun. I always claim the whole no need for an indicator type of thing. I don't like to trade with indicators personally. I do sometimes add them just for fun because they do add for a little bit of confirmation and that kind of warm fuzzy feeling we all look at or for. But personally, it doesn't really make a difference if you trade with or without indicators. And I'll show, actually, it doesn't make a difference if you trade with or without a chart. That all makes sense in a second. Let me show you this up. Okay. Just if you guys don't mind a quick set of ones or some kind of signal if you got my screen coming up. You know what? No, let me do that. Okay. So I had somebody just ask me if I was going to post on City Pips. As much as I'd like to, I don't know if that's the best idea. The reason being is just I don't want everybody to jump in and kind of see like what the hell are those lines, and then next thing you know, I'm get slammed with questions. If it gets to the point to where there's a lot of interest from the people in City Pips that haven't seen the communication back and forth already, then I'm sure we'll be redoing the whole lines ordeal. The truth is, I hope that by that point we actually have some people, which we already do on this group, that would be willing to kind of share and pay it forward, so to speak. So, all right, let's get to the fun stuff. So check this out. This is a lot of shit. Let's get rid of this grid. So in short, I kind of always claim the whole highs, lows, and threes thing, and what I see a lot of people going back and forth about is the insanity that is indicators, and maybe not so much in our group anymore, but just indicators as far as what's useful, what's not useful, and what they include in their research, and really how they go about applying those to these specific changes in the market, and it's all just kind of a big giggle fest, for lack of better words, for me, because it really, none of it makes sense. So I'll explain my reasoning behind that. An indicator is as we all know, it's lag data, right? It's old data that serves us no use other than to see historical movement, right? That's really the only purpose to an indicator. So we know, or we don't know, we actually guess at the fact and prove ourselves correct in the fact that that market moves in threes. They just like their movements, right? They like the threes. So we go by that because it works. And based on the fact that it works, it's consistently actually allowing us to grow in understanding of the charts. Subliminally, whether or not they move in threes, we see those, and those threes are then built out to a pattern that then becomes easier for us to trade. So be it that you look at it on a psychological level as like, okay, this is how they may work, and it just works in my mind like that, or if they really do work in threes, you see it, and that's the whole point. So there's no argument in who's seeing it right or who's seeing it wrong. It's more about, as long as you're seeing it, then just, you know what, enjoy it, right? Because that's the whole goal, is that whole freedom and all that bullshit that really comes along with just understanding this chaos, right? So that's why we keep it simple, is because the freedom only comes with simplicity, and that simplicity only comes from removing yourself from the chaos that you're looking at. So why not figure out an easier way to interpret it, and something that removes confusion and indifference actually adds what's the word I'm looking for? Indifference adds a guarantee, if you will. And I hate saying that, but in many ways, I actually can prove that the market's predictable. Just maybe not to the certain extent that we'd like it to be, right? So looking at simple charts, I mean, I really have a bare bones chart here. This bare bones chart is really just down to, your candlesticks and your RSI, right? So we all, in this group at least, see threes. We work off of those threes, and those threes actually become kind of our guide as to when they might make a move or make something happen. And so the best feeling in the world that I've claimed at least is when you're proven correct, right? So you see a pattern, you want it so badly to be right because either you already got yourself in or you are looking for the excellent entry, right? And then all of a sudden the market maker shows you their hand and says, you know what, you're right on this one. And then you slam the hell out of them just because of the fact that they've given you no option to not believe that you're correct, right? So the way I look at it is not so much to look for confirmations, but look for negations or look for the market maker telling you in any which way that you're incorrect. And if they do, then just walk away. Like Leo says, there's really no reason you have to trade. You don't have to force a trade. You really just you need to see the trade, and then if you do, then rock it. So that's what we do. So we know two things. We know what we've discussed before. We know the few things that are the highs, right? We know our lows, and I'm not going to go into full detail on this. If you don't understand what I'm doing here, then just take a look at the first session that we did. There's really not that many people on, less than 20 right now, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people watching this. So just for the record, if you don't understand what I'm doing here, just watch the first one. You'll get it right off the bat. But in short, like, you mark your highs, you mark your lows, you got your runs, right? Quick mini lesson. This is how you remove Ray from. So you got your highs, you got your lows, and you got your points, right? Okay. Yeah. Let's first break out. Okay, so actually you can just look at this here, leaving it alone, right? And then you can get crazy with it, and you can mark your subzones. So you got consolidation in here, and you got a bigger consolidation in here. And then when the consolidation leaves that zone, then that's where you got your entry, right? So again, if you don't get that, just watch the first session we did, and then come back and watch the recording of this one. It'll all make sense. But essentially, we know this, right? So we're looking at now the reverse. At least so far, it's proven that to us, right? Okay. So then you start saying, okay, well now up here it's consolidation, and down here now we got what looks like a turnaround, maybe. And that would make sense then if you start drawing it out like that, because then next thing you know, you got line up over here along your left side, right? And then you're like, holy shit, okay, well that makes sense. But here's where I think people are getting thrown off, and the fact that you can confirm even more fully on that. So you don't just have to throw your lines in randomly and say, okay, well there's consolidation, there's some levels. Build some kind of confirmation for yourself to actually see where things are going. And one great way that I've been pushing on being able to do that, so you don't have to add more stuff to your actual chart, is by using the RSI. Now the RSI, TDI, it doesn't matter what you're using. If the TDI, just use the green line. Same shit, it's just difference is that the RSI in there, or that green line in the TDI, is actually just buffered. So it's cleaned up a bit, so you won't see a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't see if you squinted. So essentially it's just a cleaned up version of the RSI. Now, how that works is a lot of people, I don't think, understand what the RSI actually does. The RSI is actually a volume indicator. And really essentially it shows I'll use a quote that I used from an earlier session, the stock of a store, as if you were just a mom and pop store, storefront. You have a series of, say, cups that you sell at this store, and you have a back room stocked with cups, right? So say you have 100 cups in the storeroom. When it gets to the point that you've sold 100 cups, you no longer have cups left to sell. So your inventory is at zero. And the RSI works really similar to that kind of analogy, if you will, because the way that it shows its movement is based on that inventory, if you could think about it on that simple level. So when the RSI is below the 32 line, that shows indications of being oversold. Okay? When the RSI is at or over the 68 line, that indicates that it's nearing or maybe already overbought. So if you want, just on the RSI, very simply, you can add an indicator, or I'm sorry, you could add your settings like this. And simple as that, you now have an inventory count for the Forex market. Okay? I'll show you how this works. So let's just for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and mark a section of this. Over the 50 and under that 68. Okay, so visualizing it just like that, imagine that over the 68 is overbought. Okay, so store owner ran out of inventory. I'm sorry. Over 32 or under 32 is oversold. So now they need to balance back out. That balance is at the 50 point. Okay. Now what you'll notice is that if you think of this as a zero inventory and max inventory, up here they need to sell, down here they need to buy, right? So down here they ran out of inventory, they oversold, so they need to buy some inventory back, and they do just that until they buy too much inventory, at which point they need to sell it back out. Okay? Knowing that the market maker isn't going to make it just easy peasy for you, they will throw some squiggles in there and stuff, but that's really the gist of it. If they're oversold, they're not going to sell anymore. That wouldn't make sense. If they're overbought, they're not going to buy anymore. That would make absolutely no sense. So if you mark it like this, it actually kind of smacks you right in the face. I'm going to tell you something and just visualize it as I'm telling you. If you haven't already noticed, you might have already seen this in the board and noticed it for yourself, but if you haven't, then this will be the time you notice it. Now, knowing the market maker method, our main thing is knowing when it's going to turn, is knowing when you're going to get the move in the direction. We know now that there's 3 steps or something having to do with threes that we figure out. Maybe it's a conspiracy. We don't fucking really, truthfully, use my language, but you shouldn't care. As long as it works, then rock it and study it and make sure that it's not changing. When it's changing, then just note the change and know that it doesn't work anymore. For now, the market maker works in 3, so that's what we follow. With that in mind, our thing is figuring out, okay, so what's going to happen after that 3? What's going to happen after those 3 moves? We can trickle it all the way up to the daily, weekly, monthly chart, really, if there's enough data. And we can trickle it all the way down to the 1 minute and really do what looks like precision entry, by the pip, really. And that very well may be depending on the time frame that you're looking at in the trade. EU, for example, is in a perfect position to grab a really nice trade. I'm going to leave it at that so you guys can kind of figure it out. But it's in a really nice spot. And how do we guarantee that our next move is actually going to be where or when, I should say, we want it to? Like we said, we know the where and we know the why. The where is after 3. That's where it's going for sure. And we know the why because they need to balance. And now we can actually see the balance here in the RSI. But the when is the hardest part. And I believe firmly that the RSI actually gives us a really big hint of that in collaboration with fractional disparity, for example. But right off the bat, so here's what I was wanting to show. So take a look at what happens in the chart. Pay attention to where there's uptrends and where there's downtrends. I don't care how small they are. If you see a downward movement, consider it a downtrend. If you see an upward movement, consider it an uptrend. And look at what happens in the RSI in relation to where the blue is and where it's not the blue. I'll actually make a duplicate of this box here if you'd like and show you. So think of the RSI as your indicator for buy and sell. Okay? And when you think about it in 2 separate blocks, what you'll notice is that anytime the RSI is in an uptrend, it'll be in the blue area. Anytime the RSI or the chart price is in a downtrend, it'll be in the red area, even down to the minuscule, like smallest trend. So what does that do? It does a few things. It actually gives us one signal. Note here, we're in a horizontal kind of consolidation movement on the daily. All of a sudden we drop. We see our 3 levels, right? We can validate those if you want, marking our lines and doing all that shenanigans. Got one here, whatever, here, all that good stuff, right? There. Anyway, you get what I mean, right? So then moving from there, we want to know when it's going to change. After we see those 3 levels, look at what happens down here. Actually has a premonition to it, or not a premonition, it's like a forecast that they just give you right up front. After you finish your 3, you're looking for an oversold condition for reversal, right? In a downtrend. So look at what they give you. They give you an oversold indication. That right there, after your 3 levels, or right in line with those 3 levels, you should be like, holy shit, okay, I know what's coming. They can't sell anymore. They have no inventory left. So what would we be looking for? Obviously, there's a reversal. That reversal comes after it being oversold. So the lag in this case actually works in our favor. We know they've oversold. They're faking people out, still pushing towards that lower limit. Those put together in the right conditions can create for insane profits, and only because of that, because you are literally forecasting the market only because they told you. And if you notice, it actually happens everywhere. Check this out. So here we're in oversold conditions. We expect 3 rises after these oversold conditions. We know it takes a bit for the market maker to kick their game in, right? So we're watching it through this whole consolidation period, right? And we're seeing now in this area, it actually breaks north or high of what we see as our selling area. So it broke out of there, and now we're looking at a higher trend or a higher consolidation zone. That higher consolidation zone from here already denotes the fact that we're moving in an uptrend, right? Now up here we're in an uptrend. If we were to enter here, look for confirmation in this area, we're all in. And we knew from before the actual low. So truth is, basing it on, common sense really, you're not going to buy or you're not going to sell here. So even if you were to buy extremely early here, note how in this specific instance, if you were to buy on the hook, like I mentioned, that's kind of your golden entry. And you know about it in advance. So then working your 3s, catch it the whole way. Now watch what happens here. You got your 3-step cycle, or as what we would see. And for those people, this is kind of why I love this stuff. It freeze up on me? Oh yeah, let me scroll. Okay, so check this out. If you didn't see it already, this is kind of why I love validation and using these little bits and pieces as validation of the levels. So based on the fact that we're looking at it from hindsight, everybody will say, oh, it's a lot easier than like a hindsight, whatever. And you could very well be right, but if you're coming at a consolidation here and you're breaking out of your consolidation level, you need to find the first break of that consolidation level. Now when you find that, you have your second entry, and then look what happens here. It gets to oversold or overbought conditions, right? That you can call as overbought, but it's kind of lingering on it. And if you want to go into that, that's fine. I can still see 3 levels and move beyond. But in this area, you're in overbought condition, so you know you're not going to buy at least for a minute. On the daily chart, that's a pretty big deal, so whatever. But not focusing on the time frame. Now look at where it sits. So up here, you're in overbought conditions. Now you know you're in overbought conditions when it gets there. So maybe reanalyze this whole section, and then see if you have your 3 levels in there. If you have your 3 levels in there, then that's another confirmation of what's possibly going to happen. I could pull that out. So check that out. So here's what I just saw there. And the reason I marked those in this place. So say for example we're looking at it and we stop here. We can't see anything to the right of, say, here, straight under where it says 4 hour. And we're sitting there wondering, like, okay, what the hell is going to happen? Well, here, let's look at the fact that it's been overbought. We know it can't go much higher if it already has, than it already has. Here, we see there's consolidation that's occurring right there. So just with those two pieces of information, you should be able to figure out that that's a retrace, in which case these 3 steps are now not null and void, but they just fed you into understanding that this is now another cycle, a mini cycle, and then this whole strand might just be a single step or might be a bigger set of steps that you haven't looked at. There's no data for that. In which case, look at this. So now, if we were to enter there, if we would have entered and saw just that section, looking back, we get that retrace. Now we know we've completed 3 steps here. We're in overbought. So now we can actually jump into another 3-step cycle. Here, we're looking at going into oversold conditions, now counting the 50 as our oversold zone because we're moving in a buyer's area. And then that right there works as kind of a signal for the second level of what you might have been working at before. Essentially, the next dive up because of this correction. So right here we're going. Oh, hold on, let me zoom out. I can't. I started on the daily. You see those moves. That ends up here. So then we zoom in and say, now we have our 3 steps in this area. So we know we're expecting a 3-step cycle. We know we're overbought here. And then these 3 steps actually complete. So when they complete, in this area, here, if you zoom in, and I think this is what one of the guys was talking about earlier, is that here you should actually see a sub-step or a sub-cycle in here, at which point this will actually show oversold and cue in the next rise. So let me see if I can actually mark that. And then we can kind of take a peek at what it looks like on the inside. Okay. So what we were saying before on the daily, we have overbought and then oversold conditions, right? Let's zoom out. Overbought. No, I'm sorry. Oversold here. Overbought, right? The overbought actually cues in a reversal, right? And then since we're in buyer's territory up here, it crosses over, pulls back in. We confirm that that's only a reversal and we're still in an uptrend, right? And then being that it's still in the uptrend, now we've only tapped twice, right? And this is what I was saying before. I don't know if people see this, but this is pretty badass. So you got oversold, overbought, then it goes into a sell condition, overbought again, then it goes into a sell condition, comes back up, and it still technically hasn't beat out that second level. I don't know who's seen that, but I think it's going to throw a curveball at some people this week. But if you look at this condition right in here, like we were talking about a second ago, you can actually see kind of sub-cues that show you the same thing on smaller levels. So here, look, we had our second level or third level. Imagining we were on that this path, right, and we only saw that small section. And we said, like in the first condition, we only had our 3 steps here, not seeing what's beyond this yellow block. We're in overbought conditions there, so zooming in. I hope I'm not missing people on this. Here is where the overbought conditions started, right, on the 4-hour and on the daily. That right there would cue us into sell, and look at what happens here on the RSI. Goes from overbought, excuse me, into seller's conditions. Seller conditions end up going to oversold. Oversold end up reversing, and now we're going back in the uptrend again that we see on the 4-hour. So now what's cool is that if you're looking at the relevant time frame, then you can actually pinpoint alongside the pattern when the levels, retraces, and the actual peaks of each one of those actually happen. So let's go crazy and go into the 15 just to see stuff. Let me push it to the end, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So if we were to start from the 1-hour and look for just that, look at, we have oversold condition here, prior to the low, overbought condition here, prior to the high, oversold conditions here, prior to the jump, and then it goes into overbought conditions prior to high. So if you literally just follow the RSI, you would be able to just trade off of that. Don't do that, but essentially that's really how straightforward it makes it. And I think, I don't remember who it was earlier, but somebody was mentioning the fact that you can see the levels in the RSI and you can clear as day. If you can't see them, then I don't know. But to each his own. And if you don't need it, then that's fine and dandy. Perfect. So check it out. All right. So, and again, I'm not telling you to go trade like this, but hopefully you could see where these are all coming in. And now what's cool about it is that depending on the level that you're on, the time frame, I should say, that you're on, you can actually see these moves and actually see what piece of it you're on. So remember on the 4-hour, we're in a larger uptrend in this area, right? So if we look at the 4-hour, right, look at this right here. We're in buyer's territory, then it goes oversold, starts bouncing around, then it goes up into seller's territory, sticks around there. Right, so you could see that actually happening, right? See? So you got your sellers here. All of a sudden it's oversold, flips up a little bit, goes into buyer's territory. There's a downtrend here a little bit, pushes back into oversold. Uptrend here a little bit, pushes back into buyer's territory, overbought. So it literally just cycles like ping pongs between overbought, oversold, overbought, oversold, overbought, oversold. Now the thing is it's early. That's why you can't use it to trade, because it's very early. You'll be in drawdown for a while before anything. But it is an awesome indicator once you know what you're looking at up here, which is the reason I didn't want to show it until after people are starting to understand what's going on in the chart. Once you understand what's going on in the chart, then you know what you do is you hide this, you look for your levels, you mark your levels, and when you see your levels, look, this, there's a few levels, right? I don't know. Perfect, right? Guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? Look at what happens on a downtrend. If you consider this all an overall downtrend, the bulk of the line here is on the red part, marking under the 50 in the seller's kind of region in the downtrend overall. And look at what happens at each one of the lows of the level on a downtrend. Here is a low. Look at what happens. Oversold. Here is a low. Look at what happens. Oversold. Here is another low. Look at what happens. Right? Notice now how it's gotten to that low, it shifted to the oversold or to the buyer's area, and now it's heavily riding in that zone, in this whole zone. So in here, we can see an uptrend. I mean, it's pretty clear. Looks like we may be missing a level at a glance, you know, maybe one more jump. And truth is, if it's over here and it's oversold and it taps up one more time, then that would make perfect sense for it to actually go up that last level, balance it out. And then on the higher time frame, what you should expect is that continuation of it. Which again, like here we're on the daily, and even on the daily you can see your levels if you want, you know. Right? There. They're everywhere. be. Okay. So if you kind of forget about the time piece and just think of it as all one, work it like that, and then start from the top, dive in, and you can actually see really what the only thing that makes sense. You know, you'll see it a million different ways, but there's only one thing that actually makes sense, and it's how it's working based on what it's already done. And that's really the gist of it. So dive into your 15. If you're looking at the 15, I'm not going to go crazy analyzing it. You guys can do that, I'm sure. Take a look. I mean, you know, looking for the ball bounce. I see the ball. I hate yellow, by the way. That's true. It's both awesome. I don't mind the color though. I just see the levels, or Richie's levels. I don't know. Right. Seeing pretty clearly. Okay, it's pretty good. Right. We have a low down here, came out of the low. Now look what's happened down here. We have a low, tapped out. Now we're officially shifted into the buyer zone. First tap. Okay. That's my first level. Stays in the buyer zone without being overbought. Second tap. Okay. Here we see it oversold. It doesn't worry us because here it hasn't broken our first level zone. Right? This is our consolidation zone for the first level, technically. If you want to count this, that's fine too, but this area, right? Hasn't broken it, so it's perfect. Oversold. It actually it cued us here into maybe another buy entry, because we know down here they can't sell anymore. They've already sold all their inventory out, right? And we're in an uptrend because we expect 3 levels. So let's rock that. Taps twice. Maintains in buyer's territory, taps 3 times, and that right there we know is game over. At very least for us. We know 3 levels have been satisfied. We see it in multiple ways. We see it in steps when we squint. We see it by measuring it out. Right? We see it as 1, 2, 3 taps in buyer's territory in the RSI. I am happy-go-lucky, and I just mean myself, if I went on a daily, I don't know, with 250 pips, which you can make in an hour going to another pair, but this will get you good training. And essentially that's really it. Like if you visualize that kind of relationship between what's going on in the chart and actually what's going on in economics, or with regard to economics, I should say, you can trickle this little ordeal down, I mean, all the way up to weekly and say make 1 trade a month, you know, or a couple of trades a month, or you know, be that kind of addictive trader that just goes all day while market's open. Doesn't really matter as long as you see it, right? So now that you know you're kind of just on the levels, tweak down and start, you know, quantifying your levels, if you will. Just once you see your count, just look down and say, okay, holy shit, this makes sense. You know, it's overbought 3 times, or hey, I see 3 levels on a rise from RSI, low, high, why not? You know, it gives you a good feeling. That way you don't have to add. No, I have no session indicator. I have nothing. I mean, this is a bare bones chart as it comes. The only thing I've added on this is an RSI with a 21 period. That's literally it. And that's all you need. Like really, you don't need sessions. You don't even need to know what day it is, as long as you're not waking up trying to trade on a Saturday morning. You know, I mean, that's really all you need. So open up your chart, look for your highs, look for your lows, high, low, mark up your levels. You know. I'm seeing this on a smaller scale. Maybe you saw this. Hopefully it would have. Get this clean. Then break the zone. And now what? Look down and make sure we're right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I see 2 tops right there, at least for that level. I see another top for this level. right? This one broke, overbought here, or oversold signals actually here. That's crazy. I mean, that's the best guarantee you could have ever. Now, if you're looking at it on an uptrend, I mean, I don't know who's looking at this, but let's look at it on a daily. Please don't trade this in a long position by going off of this. Hopefully you see that it's not like right now move. But if you see the levels like this, that's fine. If you see them like that or whatever, if you want to paste them up like that, just look down here and make sure it makes sense. And here's my first level. I said, okay, that looks like a level to me. Look down here. Is it oversold? Okay. Did it peak out and then reverse? That makes sense. Did it peak out again? Perfect. So what I'm expecting is a rise. I'm expecting it to stay up here or maybe to settle down here and then reverse. We know it can't go below this zone, otherwise it nullifies our analysis. And as long as it doesn't go below this zone and it stays in the blue area, I'm expecting the only thing that they can do is basically buy the inventory that they've sold out of. And that's really it. Right here. They overbought, they oversold. They maintain here. 1, 2, 3. Drop the levels. And all of a sudden they're oversold. Now we get a reverse lead. I mean, there's no confusion to it. It's the only thing they can do. Any questions or anything? I'm just kind of babbling. There's really not much else to go into tonight. I really just wanted to make sure that the relationship of price is not indicative of what indicator you need to use. It really doesn't make a difference. It's really down to what makes you see it better. If you see it in a certain way, then validate it. Don't go babbling on and hope people that will agree with you. I mean, validate it. If you can't quantify your answer, then I guarantee you nobody else will be able to, unless you drive them to the point that they're all of a sudden seeing what you are and you've influenced their decision. And that influence is really what fucks everybody. Excuse my language. Is what really screws everybody up. Going on to Facebook and seeing 2,000 people posting, "Hey, I think this is what it's going to do. What are your thoughts?" I guarantee you're going to get more variations of that response than you can possibly imagine. And that right there is what's going to throw you off. If you just focus on what you know, I guarantee you it's the same thing that everybody else is learning. And if they're not, then really there's no need that they should be focusing on Pip Society or the methods we learn, because the whole purpose is to really study the market maker method, which is a kind of an opposite of everything that everybody else does. There's either retail or there's market maker. That's really all there is, So when you're training market maker method, you make sure you stick within those guidelines and don't blur your vision. That's why I focus on the highs, lows, and threes, because if you look beyond that, then you start finding other stuff that'll really throw you off, and that's the exact purpose. I mean, all these tools that they give us, like the fib. Like we've mentioned before, there's a couple of us that slam on the fib, but if you were to seriously sit there and follow it, or follow the rules for entry and risk on using the Fibonacci and try and tie that into your daily trading regimen, you're going to go insane, because things are going to validate and then things are not going to validate, and that's the exact purpose of it. I mean, it's just like going to take a test with a teacher that wants to screw you over. No matter what in hell, you're not going to pass that test. I guarantee if they don't like you and they don't want to pass you, you will not pass, only because they're the ones with access to the answers. They know what the answers are. They can make the answers, if they want. And then that's really what it comes down to in this game. Yeah, so as far as validate, I mean, just if you see something like we were saying here, if you see the pattern built up in something, quantify it with some proof. Prove to yourself that it's right. So here, I know that's a high from this case, right? But if I zoom out, that validates it for me. That validates it for me. I know it's not been there or higher than that before, right? Another thing that validates for me as a high is if I open up the RSI and I see, okay, that's overbought, right? They can't do anything but sell in this zone, right? And if they do buy more, then they're just digging themselves in the hole. And like we know, the liquidity is not endless. It's not like they have this ultimate power like the genie and Aladdin type of thing. They really do have limited power. It's just when they make some moves, they have to take a little bit of risk themselves, assuming that you're going to follow through in psychological influence. But if you don't let that psychological influence impact your trading, then you're deadly. I mean, you become a beast, and that's really all that you can become once you understand it. Otherwise, you're really just not seeing it. At which point you shouldn't be trading out of demo yet. And I don't mean that an insult to anybody, but the truth is, unless you really know what you're doing in the Forex market, unless you see something, then you really shouldn't be trading. And I remember, I think it's Naveen, I kind of rave about this guy, Urban Forex. I used to follow the guy like crazy before I started with Leo and the Pip Society, and so he always had this thing that he used to say, and he basically said, analysis is having some kind of thought as to what's going to happen. If you know something, or if you analyze and figure something out, it's better than just jumping in not knowing anything. So at very least, the smallest amount of analysis will get you in some positive direction. Be it to tell you, hey, you're in the wrong direction, or you got lucky and you got the right analysis, you pulled in the right direction, you're going that. All we're doing is validating it. So that's really all we can do. So then back to what was just asked is, how do you validate it? Make sure that what you think lines up with something else. Okay, if what you think lines up with something else, then the best you can do is say you're right and move on to the next validation. So in this case, I say this is a high. Here it looks like it's overbought. I can only assume that that's correct. The next step would be zoom in and see what it does after that. If it breaks that high, then I know, okay, it's not going any higher just out of common sense, really. Once it goes this way, at least not for right now. So I see it break that low, or break that low of the absolute high that we saw, and look for different signals. If we're in a downtrend and we expect it to reverse, look for it being oversold. If we expect a longer leg to come down, then look for that continuation to occur, and maybe it stays in the seller zone, in the red zone down here. Like what happened. And this is a perfect example of, we know the where and the why, not the when. Like here we're in overbought conditions. They can't buy any more inventory. They're stuck. Their stock room is full, right? So we know, being that they can't buy anything else, they have to sell something. They have to start selling off their inventory that they overstocked on. That's exactly what they do to start selling. They get selling so much to the point that they now have either run off and they need to rebalance out their inventory, or they're just done. So if we look at just this section, we don't care about anything else other than here they were overbought, here they were oversold, we're done. That's our run. Now, if we look at it on a broader perspective, we see that as, okay, one step and then a retrace. That right there, based on the rules of three or whatever you want to call them, we expect two more levels, right? So let's wait for them to validate. On the daily, this is an awesome signal. If you get that hammer on the daily, holy shit, you better be in. And ideally, at least halfway up that wick. But you catch that, and now you expect two more runs. All we can do is expect for them to nullify, or basically tell us that we are incorrect. If you get in here, then the only way that they can tell you that is by going higher than that, at which point you're reanalyzing anyway, right? So here, you're at a high. We saw that we were oversold or overbought here, so we don't expect them to go any farther into the buy, right? Here it's trickling into the seller zone. As soon as it breaks into that seller zone here, and I see that it's breaking out of consolidation up here, perfect signal. So maybe you got in here at that first level. Or even if you didn't, you want to play it safe, play the safety trade across any time frame. Safety trade is really just second level, right? So here, you see it breaks into the seller zone. You're at your first level break. This is the perfect entrance per Pip Society and what we've learned anyway, right? Your M at the top, break at the M, you catch that whole first level. Well, shit, look, if you know the rules of threes, then you have here your first level. You have here a second level drop. You should expect another one, and you should have known that the second level was going to come just because it was retraced here and you hadn't oversold yet. Okay. Once it starts hooking back in, then you know you should expect to retrace again. Here's your retrace, sure as heck, but look what happens. It stays in the cellular zone. Hooks over it a little bit, but here you haven't pulled out of your second level consolidation, right? So you're still good. Technically, you should still be in profit. You know. So wait for it to tap that third time to the oversold, because we know we have 3 levels. 1, 2, 3. And at the third time it taps, now we know we've completed 3 levels. Ironically, they're all the exact same length. You validated that with lines. And if you wanted to wait till that end to either exit or enter, you have perfect signals for both. If you would have entered here, wrote it out, exit here, perfect. Use it as a second entry if you want for this entry up here. And you ride that out to the third tap. Perfect. Now here you know it's oversold. You have 1, 2, 3 taps to the bottom. That's validated up here, or you validated your levels up here with these 3 taps. 1, 2, 3. It lines up perfectly with 3 oversold conditions. We know we're done. Here we're oversold conditions. They're not going to sell anymore, at least not for now. We've completed the 3 levels, so why not watch for the first level to complete? Okay. We see our first level complete, or if you want to buy it here on the break of the buy, perfect entry. First level completed, retraced. You see it sticking in the buy zone. I see no reason to sell that yet. So I hope that makes sense. Did that answer your question, Trevor? I think I babble a little bit here. You guys are more than welcome to tell me shut up. I know. Anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? Can you guys hear my neighbor's music? On the way up, over the left, don't get taps in the overbought areas of trauma. Over here? Yeah, well, and that's why I wanted to make sure people watch the previous session. Because I hope that this makes sense to everybody that's on. If you don't, I mean, it's a lot of levels talk, really, but just kind of a way to validate your levels. So you talking about this zone, Anthony? Oh, cool. No, the RSI tool, all you need to do, it works the same as the chart. Just think of the RSI as just another window. You can actually just add that in. You can do this on the TDI too if you have the TDI. Hacking. Sure, you're going to kick ass anyway. On here. Anthony, can you give me like a day marker where it's closest to it? You're talking like this zone? Overbought? Oh, over here you're saying? You want to take yourself off mute, Anthony? Maybe you can kind of guide me there. If you're talking about here with overbought, so that's why I say start up here, not in the RSI. So, and I hope this answers your question. If not, then just kind of stop me, dude. But so if you start like this, right, you're not worried technically about whether or not it's overbought or oversold yet, right? So all you know right here is that you've marked off your high and your low. Right? So we assume this to be an overbought area. Okay, we don't look at the RSI and then say, okay, that's overbought. We buy our levels count and by just basic highs, lows, threes. We see this as a high, we see this as a low. We expect this to be oversold. We expect this to be overbought. Okay, and that's what I mean about confirmation. Not so much using the RSI as your guide, but in short, using the RSI as giving you that one, gooey feeling that you like, after brownies and all that good stuff. So what I do in this case is I say, okay, here's my high, here's my low. I know there should be 3 steps between here and here, so I find my 3 steps. Boom, 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 right? And after you have those 3 steps, I expect a reverse or something, right? So expecting a reverse, like if we were to do the perfect symmetric pattern, which is this is William's favorite type of pattern, by the way, and he'll mark this out and he'll land it to the pip too. It's insane. But in short, you see what it looks like they're going to complete is like the true head and shoulders or whatever, as long as they don't break this high, right? But you can kind of validate that you were right on this and that you were right on this path so far based on what we saw. So here we say 1, 2, 3. Here we see a reversal. 1, 2, maybe 3 steps in there. I kind of see them, kind of don't. You know, 1, 2, 3. I'll move the lines just so you kind of see what I'm talking about. Right? 1, break out of consolidation. 2, you got this high right here at the top of the line I'm moving. Right? And 3. You got that first retrace, that's right over where the top of the line is that I'm moving again. Lands you right at the bottom, right? But if you're not sure that those are 3 levels, right? Because technically you're still in the consolidation zone. So right now, if you're setting, like if you entered level halfway through level 1, or maybe at the retrace of level 1 going into level 2, and now it's at level 3, and you're like, damn, dude, did I just waste all my money? Am I losing all that? You know, now I'm down, 200 pips from where I was at yesterday, but I'm still in profit. Should I drop it or hold on to it? Well, shit, validate that maybe you're looking at something bigger. If you see this as maybe a bigger drop, or if you want to just make sure that these are 3 completed levels and it's going to reverse and you hadn't seen this just yet, then that's where the RSI comes in. That's where you look down and then say, okay, here I consider that to be the highest high. That's the end of the cycle. They showed me that I was correct, right? And here, I'm looking at 1, there's a drop right there. It drops into the seller's condition, right? So you could look at that as a level 1, right here, 1, 2, 3, and that's your first cycle. If you would have just looked at this area, that's those 3 steps. And notice again, how we always say, each single step is actually 3 steps sub to it, right? So if you look at this as a whole strand, if you squint your eyes, that looks like a solid line. Validate that. So you just did 1, 2, 3, right? And then suddenly here goes into oversold conditions, right? It gave you a forewarning on it. It said, hey, I'm almost running out of inventory, and sure as shit here, they ran out of inventory. But the script went to a buyer's kind of condition for you. If you zoom in, or not zoom in maybe so much as going to a smaller time frame, you'll see that this whole area right here was uptrend. That right there will be in the blue zone, because it'll denote that it's buyer's region, and that same spike that hits up right there will go into oversold territory, overbought territory. So here, where you see it spike into the blue zone, that right there is essentially saying it's overbought on a downward trend. And then it'll tap again, and it'll likely tap again, unless we already got the taps before. So there's a multitude of ways to look at this, and this is why I say it's a fun one. I think it can throw some people off, especially long term, but we got 1, 2 taps here. And if you ask me, this looks like a short or like a long trend in general. And we got a low tap, so it's oversold. Tap high, and that looks like a level completed now, like the full run. Tap high. We'll do another run. Hasn't broken along the section anyway. I'll let you guys play around with that. But that's kind of the way I think you can start seeing it and validating your analysis in the chart. So chart first. After you chart, you put your lines in and all that crazy stuff. Or after you visualize your lines, however you do it, ideally you don't need to draw your lines out too much longer, but just look straight down and see if it makes sense. Right here, here's a perfect example. Consolidation left to right. There's a spike to the high, whatever. We break out of that consolidation zone, it drops, drops, drops. That's 3 levels, right? So if we weren't looking at the RSI, right? We'd come in here and we'd say, okay, here's our high, here's our low, right? I don't know, here's the first breakout consolidation. You can probably chart out a few different places. Let's go for here, right? That works out perfect, but we don't know if it's done or if we're on a long or short trend. So if this is maybe just one long leg, if we were to squint, maybe we wouldn't see those, right? So let's see if that's a completed cycle or if we're actually going farther and we're not measuring out our lines correctly, right? So look straight down and look at what happens. So for each downward drop, we should see a spike into oversold, right? 1, 2, 3. And maybe check this out. Maybe since this is one solid section that's dropping down, maybe we're not starting from the right area. Right? Not that high, not this high, or that low. So look how it lines up here and here, and look how it comes down here. Oversold, oversold, oversold. So these essentially become one short level, and that's all in that zone. So then use that as your retrace. And use that as your retrace. And now you just validated your levels. So here, we're not going to go in on a sell, obviously, oversold. So you expect to buy in this territory. Now, truth is, look at this. If you were to jump in when that hooks back in, it comes earlier than the move, right? So if you know to expect, 3 taps and then something, and then that something is not going to be a sell, then there's only really one other option you have, right? So drill this down all the way down to the 5 minute, 1 minute, whatever you need. And just remember, time frame, is only relevant to the amount of time you want to be in the trade, right? If you enter a 1 minute trade, don't expect to see a 3-step pattern complete in 45 minutes. It's probably going to finish up in like freaking 15, 20 minutes or less because you're on the 1 minute. However, if you're on the 4 hour, don't expect to cash out at the end of that day likely if you're seeing the whole pattern that you want to write out from step 1 to step 3. Now remember, just be conscious of the candles, how long each one's actually valued out to. Each one of these candles, or 2 of these candles, I should say, makes up 1 day. So if you were to finish for 1 step to complete, look at that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like 3 weeks for 1 step. So to argue with somebody saying that it's going up or it's going down, dude, it's going all kinds of fucking directions now. Whether or not you're looking at it in the same time frame and the same step in the same direction that somebody else is, that's all up to debate. But that's where you really have to figure out not so much where the time frame is, but where you entered and what you plan on doing with it. Because, for example, I could look at this and say, okay, here in this area it's oversold. To me, I'm waiting for it to enter buy zone, and then I'm looking for 3 steps up, right? That's perfect, But I could be completely opposite somebody's direction if they're waiting on the completion of this, rally up, and they actually are waiting to see if this consolidation zone actually breaks their level on a higher time frame. Like here, anybody and their mother would say this is in a downtrend, obviously, right? But we look at it maybe from this perspective, and that changes everything. I mean, I see an uptrend technically here that hasn't been broken yet. All right, any more questions? I'm kind of out of that one, and hopefully you guys made a little sense out of that, and it'll help a little bit. I honestly, for me, it's kind of been my way to maintain sanity. I've always known the limits, the highs, the lows, all that shenanigans. But the truth is, if you see the the conditions, it's really as simple as saying, here, I want to buy here and I want to sell here. I want to buy here and I want to sell here. I mean, it really is like that. It's just knowing where that limit is. And then what I noticed is that if you follow the chart up here and use these to confirm, you really can't miss a trade. It's just not possible. It all really comes down to spread and equity, right? So if your stop loss is set too short, and if you buy here, right, and you set your stop loss 10 pips, then obviously you might get stopped out. So that's really the only thing that can prevent you from not having profited in a buy entry here. Same goes as up here. If you're up here, the only thing preventing you from being in profit from entering a sell or a short position is either your stop or the amount of equity, right? They only control that by spread, margin, So realistically, it's as simple as this. Now, if you could take this simplicity and drive it all the way down to the 15-minute, then you will not miss a trade. You just won't. It's not possible. And I hate saying that. That's something that you really, get drilled into your head that you can't guarantee so often. But this is the one thing I can guarantee, I think, just because it's all based on just those factors. Just looking at the chart, really common sense. Like here, overbought. I put in a sell right here, I get out here, it's oversold. That to me is a nice trading day. That's 79 pips. Definitely not enough for me for a day. I like to maybe double or triple those up because it's really easy once you see this shit. It really is. Because look, here you enter on a 5-minute. That's maybe a couple hours of your morning. You profited out 80 pips. You're looking at it here. Okay, well now I'm looking at a buy. It's oversold. I looked at it before. We're on a 3-step down cycle. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to wait for this overbuy or this buy to come back into seller's territory after I know it's going to tap the 50, which now has become my overbought conditions, right? So here I ride it to here. I exit there. That's another 25 pips. And then here, now we know we have 2 more steps to complete because we did 1 step here or 1 step here if we saw the analysis down here, whatever. So we jump in here, all of a sudden we jump in here after it comes back in. And that's another ride for 87 pips. You could do this all day. Actually, a couple of you I know did. I think the first couple of days we did the last session. All right, last chance for questions. Trevor, why'd you walk away, dude? We talked about the best stuff while you were gone, man. Yeah, an example, the magical line. I'm gonna have to copyright that. 15-minute magic line. And you guys, Trevor, stop me if you already caught the last one. Otherwise, here, I'll walk through one real quick. Let me just, here, GU. Okay. All right, on the 15-minute, this is one we're just looking at right now. So we're looking for the ball bouncing. I don't feel comfortable in that just because I see this peak over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit farther. But I got my high, I got my low, I got overbought and oversold conditions.
Oh, well, I told you to don't stop talking too much. You didn't watch the film. No, I did it myself.
Okay. Man, it loaded up on my freaking lines from the other one. I pretend you don't see those ones. Here we got our day one, we zoomed in with the 1 hour. Okay, I see. So it's Trevo. Trevo asked about 15 minutes, just a quick example, 15 minutes on the on just any pair. I picked GU because I had it open down here. Thing is, dude, is you can't really just jump right into the 15-minute, man. You have to see something, right? So to start from where you can see something, like in this case, right? I always like to, in my words, I like to look for the ball bouncing. I like to look for an ultimate high and ultimate low, and then from there I feel better about where I start, right? So in this case, we got our high, we got our low. That's a great view. 1 hour, I still see high and low. And then just always asking yourself if it's gone higher, if it's gone lower, right? So look at it here. Let's start on just a 4 hour. You can go higher, but look at what's happened here, right? So you have oversold conditions. You have overbought conditions. We're expecting 3 steps, right? So let's look at that section right here. First, and right off the bat, if you squint your eyes, you can kind of tell 2 massive strands that really tapped out to the high, being that we're in an uptrend. We know this. We know that. We know that. Okay. Those are our highs, those are our lows. We can confirm that here with overbought. Confirm that here with oversold. Okay. Don't worry about the rest, because that all works in a different way, right? Because we know that if it's in a downtrend, it'll stick to the red. If it's in an uptrend, it'll stick to the blue. Right? Over 50 or under 50. Over 50 is buy, under 50 is sell. Only relevant though if you know your high and your low and the direction it's moving, because then what it does is it tells you how much is left in that, at least as far as confirmation. So we have our high here, our low here. We expect 3 levels to drop. We get 1, 2, 3 areas that are oversold. We can validate those. We should have been using that to validate, but you can say whatever, something like that. Those 3 areas, right? Something like that, right? And then we're looking over here, and now focusing on the right, we're essentially looking to confirm the same thing. So when we draw out our levels, all we're looking for is confirmation of those points. Here we know it's overbought, or oversold, I'm sorry, right? Here's our first overbought section, okay? So if you wanted to go here, because you didn't know the rest, that's fine, just make sure it validates, and that would have validated the following day. We're on the 4 hour journey. But here, if we see these levels going up, then forget the 15 minutes right now, just make sure you know what's happening in the rest of the world, right? Or Jonathan, I don't know if you're on right now, but you made an awesome example. I don't know what I'm gonna have to look it up, the analogy. Oh, the Google Earth analogy, that was awesome. I don't remember it word for word, and I'm not gonna damage it right now, but yeah, I'll post it because I thought it was really rough. Anyway. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, look at we got our low here. We got oversold conditions. We want to confirm our first level if we want to call it that, right? Overbought. If you went before and said, okay, I'm going to go with this little section because it's overbought, sure, why not? Still in this area, hasn't broken it. Once it does break it, you have this and you're still valid, right? And now check that out. If we would have gone with that, look at here, we got 1, 2, 3 taps. See that? To the overbought area. It maintained the whole time in the buy zone, and here it tapped out to the high, at which point it reversed, and now it's in the sell zone. So guess what? In this section, we're likely going to have a downtrend, right? 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 Now look, that still doesn't break our zone, so check out what you can do there. This is where you can tell the future. Fine. And go there, maybe. Still hasn't broken the zone. I technically would wait, but you could very well be looking at something like that and then validate it doing something like this. Right? That would make sense. All the pieces you got over here is a really strong point of resistance. That would be there, and then this right here would be the break zone that you'd be looking for. So then if that breaks, then look at what happens here. All of a sudden you squint your eyes and you notice that this looks like one big run, and then holy shit, now you got maybe another run inside of that. And all of a sudden that line becomes that line, and this line becomes this line, and then this line becomes this line. And all of a sudden you redraw your line. Oh, shit. Watch what happens. I don't even need this. I mean, you can see it without seeing it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And now watch. Run 4 hours on the daily. Look at how that works. It gives you. It's so crazy. Get that out. I mean, that's freaking coincidence. It's too much comes together to deny that it's not there, you know. And that's just ridiculous. But yeah, that's really what it comes down to. So then back to travel. I know you wanted me to zoom into the 15, but then from this instance is when I start zooming in, because then I know what's going on the 15, right? All kinds of shit can happen over here. We know that. We've validated all kinds of stuff, right? But now, from what we know here, I don't know, maybe you can go with, okay, on the daily, I'm in an uptrend. I know I haven't overbought yet, okay? So on the daily, so far, we're looking like we're going up. Oh, wow, I've been too many lines. This is why I don't like drawing lines. I'm sorry, guys. You start visualizing them after a while, and then everything just becomes too much clutter. Yeah. Okay, so we know we're in an uptrend. Hopefully you can see it without it now, right? You know, we completed 3 levels over here. We got 1, 2, 3 zones that all tap oversold. We're going here, we're looking at the uptrend. Okay, that's validating 1, 2, we're looking maybe another tap over here for another buy because it's going up, obviously. That may or may not happen until the next level completes. It all goes null as soon as it breaks this area, right? Not worth anything, at which point this becomes a longer run. Or maybe you see 1 run here, 1 run here, intent. I see it, but anyways, there's all kinds of stuff that you could see, but it's seeing it at the right time and then associating it with something else that makes it valid, right? So we're looking at long run, zoom in, now we do some analysis, 1, 2, coming down, here, 1, remember this was a section before on the daily, right? So although this was it looks like 2 taps here, it was actually a single tap or a single section that was tapped on the daily, right? The 4 hour, I don't remember what it was. So either way, here, oversold, or it was overbought on the daily or 4 hour, whatever. It goes oversold, look at the mini cycle in there. Right? So here, another one. There's the infamous half Batman, right? And then that half Batman becomes 3 equal steps. Right? Now all of a sudden those 3 equal steps go oversold, we see sideways movement. Okay, if it's oversold they can't sell anymore, so we expect upwards movement. Okay, so they do. Upwards movement. Okay? Now, because of the fact that it hasn't crossed fully into overbought, right? And it comes back into oversold, that means that we're in a long-term downtrend, no? This may just be the first tap of 3 that we would expect, right? So why not do this? Right? That would make sense now. So what would we expect? I'm going to stop that right there. So you guys get my point, right? So validate, right? It almost becomes stupidly easy. It really does. I think the hardest part is really in after you realize how much sense it really does make, is really, really locking into the psychological simplicity of it. Don't overcomplicate. When I first started talking, I don't know who I was talking to about it, but I was really calling it a scam. It's a damn conspiracy, and it kind of is. I mean, if you think about it, I ain't going over AJ, dude. You got the tools, man. Do it up. In short, you guys, it really just do me a favor. Just do exactly what we just did. Mark your high, mark your low. Look at the sections down here that make sense. Damn it, man! Now you got me feeling bad. Hold on. I'm gonna do it right there. if I didn't lure you guys so much, I'm not gonna analyze it. All right. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna build out a signal, but oh, dude, I'm not even gonna analyze that. No way. All right. Tell me. All right. I'm gonna walk through what we just did. Highs, lows, right? Doesn't matter where you take it from on this look. This is all sideways movement to me, to be honest. So I personally wouldn't even do that, but you can see it pretty damn clear on this one. Right? And then validate that. 1, 2, 3. See that? Oversold. And that zone. Funny. I promise I'm not trying to do it. Right? Right. You see that, Chris? Cool. Just remember, you can't sell if it's oversold, right? And most of the time, if you start looking at the charts, you'll actually start seeing that. I mean, you'll start seeing it now clear as day. Just if you really just kind of step away for a second from the trading aspect and just kind of visually take it in for a little bit, you will see the fact that, I mean, look at here, this little downtrend. It doesn't matter where you look; it all validates, right? Look at this downtrend. Look at straight down here. Look at what happens. Goes straight into the seller zone, right? This little uptrend here. Look at what happens in the buyer zone. This little downtrend here in the seller zone. So if you were to just trade off of that, please don't, because we trade way better than that. We can get way better entries and exits knowing what we know. But I mean, that right there again is your confirmation. So step 1, like we did, highs, lows, find your threes, confirm some kind of completion, some kind of reversal, some kind of something, right? Once you confirm the move, even your first level, you know what's left. Validate that first level. Maybe there'll be 3 sub-levels. See it in the RSI down here. Make sure it makes sense. If that makes you feel better, then perfect. Some of you guys might not even need it, but the RSI for me is a godsend when it ties in like that. So again, start from the top, confirm on the bottom, and just take all your damn money. And that's all I got for y'all today. You're very welcome, Grusky. You guys know I'm always on chat. If I take a little bit longer to respond, because I suddenly became all kinds of popular, I guess. So as much as I love you guys, I can't possibly keep up with everybody. But everybody knows I'm always available. And truth is, like, there's a lot of people that are kicking ass, and I have a feeling that soon we're kind of going to all be paying it forward. It feels good, first of all, to kind of school somebody in something that does become real easy. But at the same time, it really does feel even better when you see them actually succeeding from it when, just not too long ago they were completely, on the opposite side. There's a couple of you guys, and I know you guys know who you are, but, we went, within a couple weeks' time from, holy crap, I think this is bullshit, and I think I got, ripped off type of thing to, some of the top earners. So I really appreciate your guys' belief in what we do, and I really hope that we can, at least within our group, emphasize on the fact that, we really can kick ass at this, and we're not in it for rubbing it in people's faces, making people feel like crap. We're just in it for the game and sharing it, right? So thank you guys all. You guys are really awesome. Any questions? Like I said, I'll be online. and we all kind of help each other as a fam. So stick around, make money this week. It's going to be easy as cake. Just don't dive in. Make sure you study the charts a little bit first. Try some of this stuff out and have fun. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Well, thank you, Carlos, man.
Yes, sir. You guys have fun. I'll put the recording up shortly.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.